We got to hear from players and coaches today on the South Side as they had some media availability. And we got to hear from Matt Canada. We got to hear from Najee. We got to hear from Broderick Jones, people of that nature. And they were giving us a little insight into what's going on in that building and the state of the Steelers team as we move into Week 10 to face the Green Bay Packers and what should be a game the Steelers win and win convincingly, in my eyes at least. Let's talk a little bit about what we heard today. And first, let's start with Matt Canada. He was talking about the George Pickens issue, saying it's kind of a non-thing. And I'm going to go with that it's kind of a non-factor at this moment. But I think there was more to it than most people would like to think. I think Mike Tomlin sat him down and told him, hey, young man, this is what's going on. This is how it's going to be. And I'm disappointed in you more than anything. And instead of screaming and yelling, he probably really hurt his feelings by saying, hey, I'm disappointed in you. And this isn't how you should be acting. This is what you need to be doing as a professional. I'm sure he's got it from a lot of angles, from his agent, from other players, and we know for a fact that he's got it from other players. Deontay Johnson spoke with him and said, hey, we had a good talk, and I think George understands, and he's only human, and I think he just needs to realize he's 22 years old, he's in the limelight, and realize that what he's doing is helping me, because he's getting double teamed. And Matt Canada spoke to that. George is getting double teamed. That's opening up things in the run game. That's opening up things for Deontay Johnson and other receivers. And George Pickens, with his immaturity issues, and I wouldn't call them really issues, 22-year-old men, raging hormones, usually are pretty big idiots. And they usually do have clouded minds. And it's just the way. It's nature. And is it anything that we all should be totally crazy about? Absolutely not. But I think he should be told. You can't have that level of immaturity in the NFL. You're a guy that's going to be paid a lot of money. You're a guy that's in the limelight. You're a guy that a lot of people look to every week on those sidelines. There's going to be cameras glued to you because you're an exceptional talent. And you have to be aware of what you're doing. And I think it's really that simple. And I think Mike Tomlin probably explained that to him. It's really that simple, George. You're going to be in the public eye, and you have to learn to represent yourself in a way that isn't going to cause you a bunch of issues, that isn't going to cause the team a bunch of issues. Because when I think it starts to affect the team as a whole, I think that's when Mike Tomlin really has to intervene and really become more of a hard ass. And I don't think that Mike wants to be there. I think he's a player's coach, and I think he really wants to have a good relationship with most of these guys. But Matt Canada, again, he spoke with the media, and he really told everybody how much it's helping other players on this offense and how it's starting to open things up for others and just open things up in general for this offense. When defenses are dedicating a lot of resources to stop one guy, it's naturally going to open things up in other areas. And Matt Canada was really actually happy about that. And that's a testament to George Pickens and his skill level and his ability to get open. And Matt Canada also spoke, hey, we're not going to force George Pickens the football. We're not going to ask Kenny Pickett to throw it into double coverage and force the football and make a big mistake just to get George catches, get George targets, because that's not going to help anybody either. That's not going to help George. That's not going to help Kenny. It's not going to help the team, and it's going to cause problems, and it's going to set them behind the chains. It's going to put the defense in bad spots when you have a big turnover back in your own end. It's just going to create a lot of issues. And if you're Kenny Pickett, you're trying to develop. You're trying not to make mistakes. You're trying to keep all the receivers happy. You're trying to keep the offense moving. And you're trying to keep the media and the fan base off your back because you've had some slow development. So we can see where some of these issues are arising for this offense. And Matt Canada really is trying to say here, hey, we're not going to force the ball to one player. We're going to try to be versatile here. We're going to try to spread it around, and we're going to try to continue to open things up. He also spoke about the run game and Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren and described them both being a little bit different. And we can all see that Jaylen Warren is a different runner and is a different guy out of the backfield in the pass game. And Matt Canada spoke to that also, that Jaylen comes in, gives the team the spark it needs. But I think you need to see a little bit more of Jaylen Warren. He also spoke about Najee coming in, getting it done. But he said that both of them can do the same similar things. But I don't really think Najee is better than Jaylen Warren out of the backfield on pass catching and route running. I think Jaylen Warren just has more speed, is more quick and versatile in his movements, and I think that that's where Jaylen Warren is better in the pass game, as more than Najee Harris. Najee Harris has had some big catches out of the backfield. I remember one last year to win it in Baltimore with a big catch. That was an amazing catch out of the backfield for Najee, and it really showed his versatility. But Jaylen is just slightly a more versatile, quick feet type guy, and that's hard for Najee, who's a bigger guy, who runs with a little bit more power. At least he should. At times you see him dance around, and it's probably not what he should be doing. He shouldn't be trying to do all the fancy stuff. Najee should be more of a downhill guy, getting those tough yards. Excuse me. Also, Matt Canada spoke to opening this offense up and providing scoring opportunities and scheming the players open, and talking about how that they've been really trying to scheme their playmakers open, and that's going to directly affect George Pickens, scheming players open, trying to mix things up. And what I hope, and my hopes, is that means reducing the plays for Allen Robinson, as we talked about in another video, sliding George and Deontay in and out of the slot, moving players around, using all your chess pieces to be able to create a different environment for that offense to work out of. And I think it's just a must, guys. I really, really do. And I hate to harp on things, but this is one of the most important things, I think, and one of the most pivotal details of this season for the offense. And that is to be more exotic and create different formations with the personnel that you have. Taking out some of the personnel that's less productive. We know who can produce now. We're at the midpoint of the season. And I think it's time that Matt Canada recognizes that. And the way he talked today, I think he does. I think he recognizes what he needs to be doing. He talked about being down on the sideline with that offense. He really doesn't think it made a difference. But in my eyes, I think it added a personal touch to that offense. I think it allowed players to know that their voice was being heard. I think it allowed players to understand more of what Matt was talking to, instead of just talking to Kenny on the headset or on the phone, whatever it is nowadays. Probably the headset. But anyway, or talking to him on the iPad. Maybe they FaceTime. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do they talk to him on the headset, or do they FaceTime on the iPad? How does that work? But anyway, yeah, that's a good question. I never thought of that. I'm going to look into those Surface Pads and see what all they do with those. That's kind of crazy. But anyway, let's get back to that. Kenny Pickett, he's not the only one speaking with Matt Canada, and I think that that's big, guys. Super big. And I think George really was, all in all, happy for Deontay Johnson, but you can really see how this tandem is going to create big problems, because you're not going to continually be able to double George Pickens and allow Deontay Johnson to score 3 times a game, because that's what it's going to end up being for other teams. And they recognize that. And once the Steelers offense gets rolling, which I think they will this week against the Green Bay Packers, I think they could create a lot of issues, especially if you can get both your big-time wide receivers involved in the football game. Get those running backs involved. Get Jaylen Warren a little bit more touches. Allow him to provide that spark that Matt Canada spoke of. And really be versatile and get things moving. And let's talk about that offensive line a little bit before we go too much further here also. I wanted to switch gears with that. We've talked about the skill players, Kenny Pickett, and what he needs to be doing. But let's talk about that offensive line. Broderick Jones spoke to the media, and he's just head over heels kind of excited, man, about being able to have another opportunity at the right tackle position. He loves being able to be versatile. He loves learning both sides. He loves being able to be inserted in that offensive line and helping it out wherever he can. And it's really starting to show how much of a presence, a good presence he is, and how much of a positive thing Broderick Jones being inserted into that line has become. He brings a good energy. You even heard that from the quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Broderick brings a good energy. He seems like a good young guy, a guy that can provide that spark. a guy that's always really excited and ready to play some football and really is aggressive and really eager to learn. And those things you just don't teach somebody. That's something that they have to have in them. That aggressiveness, that eagerness to learn, that ability to really be fired up about whatever situation that they may be in and do the best that they can in that situation. But Broderick was super pumped about that and is really excited. And his play is pretty good last week. And when he was in for Dan Moore Jr. at the left tackle spot, he did really well there, filling in when Dan Moore was hurt. But as Mike Tomlin said, Dan Moore is exceptionally better at left tackle. But he isn't great there on tape. He's serviceable, and he's been doing a better job as of late. But man, if he's that much worse at right tackle, ooh, man, I don't know. That might not be good. They might be looking elsewhere if Broderick Jones slides over to the left tackle position and takes the place that the Steelers originally drafted him for. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't think you care where people play on that line. As long as you find the right chemistry and the right group. That you've got to have a whole group. I do think the Steelers need to go out and find a center on the offseason. I think that's really still dragging the offensive line down. I think Mason Cole's play hasn't been consistent enough to be a quality center at the NFL level. I think he's really missed in a lot of games. I think he's had some good moments, but in general, as a whole, I would grade him as like a C, just average, and at times a D plus. I really think that he has some issues. When Mitch came into the game and they were playing behind in the Jaguars game, and there were opportunities to get that game and reel it back in and possibly win that game. There were opportunities for that. Mason Cole throwing things into the dirt, snapping it into the dirt, making Mitch have to dig down and get it. You're throwing off a quarterback's progression. You're throwing him out of sync. You got to hit that guy. You got to have a quality snap every play if you're in NFL center. You really, really do. And the Steelers have had a long line of good centers come through. Let's talk about the most recent, Marquise Pouncey, a stud, dude, absolute stud. You had DeMonte Dawson, Mike Webster, just a great line, a great bloodline running down through those Steelers centers, man. Just quality players across the board, and the Steelers really, I think, missed that and really missed that big all-pro guy anchoring their offensive line. And I think they're going to look for that in this year's draft. I think that that's going to become a priority because I don't think that they're really into this mix matching, finding just a serviceable guy to be the center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers really truly value cornerstone foundational pieces, especially on the offensive line, left tackle, right tackle, center. I think they really value those types of guys, and it's shown through the years because we've had some really quality offensive line play in the city of Pittsburgh. We've had some bad ones, but for the most part, we've had some really consistent, good offensive lines. And Broderick Jones was also posed the question, which I didn't like from the media because I think it's really trying to stir shit, and I don't think it's really cool. And I know the media, they do an excellent job most of the time. They're out there asking the questions they have to ask. They have to create news. I mean, they have to create a buzz, and that's their job, and I get that. And doing this channel, I'm kind of in the same boat sometimes. But I think there's a fine line that you have to walk, and I don't think you go out and you deliberately stir up drama talking about Broderick Jones and Chooks Okorafor and talking about maybe there being some a problem between those two since Broderick has taken the job of Chooks, at least for now. And Broderick said, hey, man, we're brothers. I think of him as a brother. There's no problem there. And he also referred back to when they were trying to create drama between Broderick Jones and Dan Moore Jr. And I don't really like that part of the media. I don't ever like that. I don't think you should ever go into a locker room and try to create a situation in any way, shape, or form. And those things I think you need to leave alone, especially between teammates. Now, the George Pickens outburst, I think that's a little bit different. That was all in front of the world. That was in front of everyone's eyes on national media. I think they have every right to ask that question. But to try to drum up some drama and manufacture some reality TV, as Mike Tomlin liked to call it, I think that that's a problem. And I think that the media should walk that little bit of a fine line and not really go there and try to manufacture it. Now, if it comes out and somebody figures out, hey, there is a problem, and sees that there is a problem, then hey, fair game, man. Do what you got to do, but don't try to go in there and make something out of nothing. I think that that's a big issue occasionally for some of these people in the media. And I'm not sure who asked the question, nor would I say their name anyway. I don't want to call them out. But I don't remember who it was that asked it. And I try to listen to the people because you can kind of tell, even not behind, if they're not on screen, you can hear their voices from listening to shows that they're on, listening to different things that are different times they've asked questions. And you can tell who asked and who did, you can tell, but I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't say anyway. So, but I'm just saying, I think that that's a fine line that these people should walk and really not go for that. But after hearing some comments, we talked about the George Pickens issue. We talked about Broderick Jones. We talked about the Matt Canada thing. And those were really the highlights for me. Patrick Peterson spoke. I really didn't get too much of a chance to listen to him, but I don't think that there's too much turmoil on that defense. He did speak a little bit about playing safety, and Patrick's a veteran. He's going to play wherever. I am tired of watching him getting burnt a lot by some of these younger players out there. I think being out there in some situations is just not good. I think he's just old, and I think they need to put him better into different schemes and positions to get his abilities to shine through a little bit better. I think that the Steelers should make a little bit different or some different changes for Patrick Peterson and realize his age and not lean on him to be a top shelf cornerback all the time. I think he's more prone to playing a role now at this stage of his career. He's a role player. He's not a superstar any longer. Now, years ago, he was a Hall of Fame type guy out there, and he still is a Hall of Famer, and he will be. But Patrick Peterson, in my eyes, has just lost a step, and I think he needs to be put in situations to where he can just be a ball hawk and use his intellect on the football field to create issues and to create turnovers and to manufacture problems for opposing offenses. And Patrick Peterson, I think, is going to be a team player and play wherever he has to win games, because Patrick Peterson came to Pittsburgh for one reason, and that's to chase the Lombardi Trophy, and he knows that. And I think the Steelers could have a chance to do something special in the playoffs, but it's going to take every man in that locker room getting selfless and really not trying to worry about their numbers and not trying to worry about what they need for themselves and only worry about the unit and really buy into what the coaches are saying and buy into your teammates and buy into helping each other. And I think that that's the only way that anyone at any level, at any team, can win a championship. I think that that's what you have to do when you get a group of players together that don't care about themselves as an individual and only care about the whole. I think that that's when you create an environment and breed winning. And I think the Steelers have been good at that over the years. They've had some teams that haven't had a ton of superstars on it that have done really, really good. Bill Cowher years, I felt like that was a big thing. You didn't have a ton of superstars at times, but you were able to get to AFC championship games. You were able to win the most games in a certain time frame at one period in the entire NFL under Bill Cowher. I think Mike Tomlin has had a lack of talent at times and still has been able to win games, especially when he had Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback. For Mike Tomlin to have a coaching experience and keep his team above 500, then I have to applaud that. That's getting your team to buy in. Even when you lack the talent, I think that that's what the Steelers have to do now. In 2023, in the second half of the season, realize that they've had a better start than they've had in a while, and they haven't put themselves behind the eight ball. And I think Mike Tomlin really needs to emphasize now that this is the time that the team comes together and doesn't get down and doesn't really start having some self bullshit going on, guys. You don't need to bring things all the time about yourself. You don't need to make everything about yourself, and just buy into that team environment. I think that's going to be the most important thing moving forward. And if you're Kenny Pickett, you got to lead this team in that way and not worry about this media attention calling you a loser, calling you a bust, calling you everything under the sun, every day attacking your play. I get it. It's been poor. I'm one of them that has to talk about it. I talk about his poor play, but yet I'm trying to talk too about the quality plays that he does have and his qualities that are a plus for this football team. But if you're Kenny Pickett, you have to be able to block all that out, be a true leader, and guide this offense and guide this team, frankly, as the quarterback, and become that franchise guy in the second half of this season. You're going to have to really stand up and really make some big plays and really not worry about what you got going on personally, and not worry about your own statistics, and not worry about, hey, I got to throw X a number of touchdown passes. Only do what the team needs to win football games, and that's the only thing that he should be concerned about. And I think he's done an excellent job so far doing that, because they've had some big time struggles, but yet Kenny forces himself to just get the job done and keep this team winning. And that's the biggest thing that we've seen and we've learned of this Pittsburgh Steelers team so far, is that they're gritty and that they can do it whenever it matters. And that's the biggest thing that I think they're going to take into the second half of the season too. And that's going to be huge, especially when you reach the playoffs and you're playing teams that are far better than you at times, and they can score way more points than you at times, but you're able to dig down deep, play together, and find ways to win football games. And that's all that truly matters. All right, guys, let's get off here and break it down. We'll go over some more things as we move closer to the Green Bay Packers game. Don't forget our live event after the show. Don't forget, we might do some live events too before the game even. Maybe even Saturday night, maybe we'll do a live event and hear from some Steeler fans and see where you guys think the Steelers need to be Sunday and what you think the Steelers need to do Sunday in order to secure victory and continue to gain ground in this AFC North race. All right, guys, until next time, peace.